Hello folks, my name is Mark, this is Why I Hate the World, how you guys doing? So there has been a, increase, it seems, in mass shootings, recently. We've had something like 5 within the last week and a half, and actually 2 this weekend within 24 hours of each other, which is a lot, even for the United States. It's, usually we have these things, there's one a month, something like that. Two within one day is like a lot. Now, here's the thing, okay? This has just become like these mass shootings. They've become another battleground in the rhetoric between the left and the right online and out there. Everybody wants to blame somebody whenever something bad happens like this. And just like any other political, issue, right? Gun control or taxes or healthcare or whatever. Mass shootings is just another one where people can go online and just yell at each other and nothing ever gets done. And that's the thing, is that nobody ever thinks about an actual real solution to the problem, let alone about the victims of these tragedies. And I think that really needs to change. Now, the thing is, I'm not, immune to this, right? I came on here ready to make, a video that was gonna I was just gonna lay the entire blame completely at the feet of right-wing extremists, right? Because, let's be real here, right? They're actually a big part of this problem, this El Paso shooting guy, like, fucking went on 8chan with a manifesto talking about, how many Mexicans he wanted to kill, okay? There's been a couple of them, actually, over the last year or so. The Christchurch shooting that happened in New Zealand, I don't know if you remember that. That guy fucking was, like, dropping, memes and shit, right-wing memes, subscribe to PewDiePie and all that stuff. Fucking live streamed the whole thing on Facebook, right? The Poway synagogue shooting a little while ago, guy goes into a synagogue, thankfully only one person was killed, right? That guy fucking dropped a manifesto on 8chan also. So it's like 8chan is quickly becoming like the place to go before you fucking commit a mass murder like this, right? Ridiculous. Now, but the thing is that oversimplifies the problem. Okay, I mean, it's easy to point fingers at white supremacists and try to blame them for all the mass shootings in the country, but in real life, this is not a new problem that we've had. We've had mass shootings in this country for years and years, going back decades. I mean, the first big one, I think, that kind of woke everybody in my generation up to this was Columbine, But when was that? 1999? I mean, what, 20 years ago now? I mean, fuck. And that wasn't even the first one. Now, one thing people on the left tend to do is they tend to blame conservative pundits and conservative media for stoking the fires of fucking racial hatred. And it's true, okay? Like, the hateful, racist, and borderline violent rhetoric that you see conservative media figures like Ann Coulter or Sean Hannity or Tucker Carlson spew day in and day out, right? Talking about how we're being invaded by, illegal immigrants and all of that stuff. That certainly does a lot to foster an environment where disturbed and mentally ill people might take action based on that rhetoric, right? And we're definitely seeing a large number of these types of people getting radicalized in places like 8chan and, the Donald on Reddit and a couple of other places, right? And it's, that's a huge part of this problem, right? So I don't want to absolve the right wing completely of this. Okay. Now, right about this time, though, you're going to see people, conservatives and alt-right assholes and others will start screaming about Antifa, saying that, they're dangerous and they beat people up. And, despite all of the bullshit propaganda you might have heard about Antifa being so violent and, beating up reporters and hitting people with fucking milkshakes that are filled with concrete and that kind of thing, quick-drying cement or whatever. Please remember that there have been 0 deaths attributed to Antifa in the United States. 0. They have killed no one, right? They haven't shot anybody. They haven't stabbed anybody. They haven't beaten anybody to death, right? You can't really say the same for the alt-right. I mean, fuck. There's actually an article right now on The Guardian of I think it's 11 different or 16 different mass shootings, right? Since 2011 that have been committed by right-wing extremists with a combined body count of 175. And, when you hear that, you're like, God, that's a lot, right? Well, the truth is that's not even all of them, right? That's just counting the actual mass shootings. It's not counting all the bombings or stabbings or, shootings where there's only one victim. Okay, so, but 175 versus zero. I mean, let's not beat around the bush here, folks, okay? Like I said before, it oversimplifies this to blame it all on one side. All right, I don't want to absolve the left from responsibility in these kinds of mass shooting attacks because every once in a while you do see somebody that is, on the left as the perpetrator of one of these things. In fact, in Ohio this past weekend, the guy that did the shooting in Ohio, the guy's Twitter page said that he was a registered Democrat and described him as a leftist. It even said it, leftist, right? That particular attack, it looks like he was like also, a misogynist bully incel kind of thing. So who knows if that's even accurate or what. Another one that comes to mind is the 2017 Congressional baseball shooting. I don't know if you remember that. A 66-year-old guy got a rifle, and there's every year, Congress, they have this baseball game, right? And it's supposed to build camaraderie and all that stuff and help with bipartisanship or whatever. And he went there and he shot specifically at Republican politicians trying to kill them. I mean, thankfully, he didn't actually kill anybody. But there you go. There's another mass shooting right there. Performed, the perpetrator was not a racist, insane person. His politics are probably not much different than mine. I mean, that guy, apparently, the guy that was in that baseball shooting was actually a volunteer for fucking Bernie Sanders for his, presidential campaign. So, you can't say that it's all one side, right? Now, before we go on, though, I do want to say that it must be noted at this time that the Ohio shooter does not appear to be politically motivated, like unlike the El Paso shooter, he didn't belong to any groups or make any violent messages or anything online on his social media or whatever. Unlike the El Paso shooter who, had an entire manifesto talking about how he wanted to kill, minorities and stuff like that. The Ohio shooter didn't have any of that stuff. Okay. I mean, the fact is, one of his own sister was one of the victims in the shooting. So, make of that what you will. Okay. See, the problem is that nobody actually discusses the real issue. The real problem we have in this country isn't mass shootings. It's not insane people getting a hold of guns and going off into a mall and shooting 50 people. Because even though that happens a lot, it's still, not the biggest. The biggest problem in this country is just the fact that so many people are murdered and die by firearm here, and the fact that it's like actually more than pretty much anywhere else in the world, with like the exception of like Colombia. Okay, it's absolutely fucking ridiculous. In 2015, in the United States, there were 39,773 deaths by firearm. Okay. 39,773. Well, you go, wow, that sounds like a lot, but, we have millions of people here, right? Well, let's just put that into context. So here's some other countries in 2015, right? 2015, there were 1,542 people killed in France by firearm. Haiti, right? Oh, that's a pretty, dangerous country to live in, right? Surely they have lots of people getting killed by guns down there, right? 1,132. Germany, 848, right? Australia, 238. England has 120. New Zealand, 55. Japan, 23. Now, that's, some people object to that because I'm including everything. All deaths by firearm, including suicides, including homicides, accidents, the works, right? So some people would say, well, what about just the number of homicides, right? The suicides don't count for some fucking reason. I don't know why, but whatever. What about homicides? Oh, yeah. Well, France had 79 homicides by firearm. England had 11. All right, Japan had 3. Okay. United States in 2015, 12,974. All right. Now just think about that for a second, okay? England, 11 people were murdered with a gun, right? Japan, 3 people murdered with a gun. United States, 12,974. And that is actually lower than it was last year, okay? Last year, 2018, it was 14,542. So, the number, it's actually going up. It's becoming a bigger problem. And it's like, well, why? Why? It's because we have half the fucking country that just has some kind of weird ass hard on for guns. That's why, okay? It's because we have a gun lobby in this country that has a stranglehold on an entire political party, right? And has convinced them that if they do any kind of even the smallest little control, to keep the guns out of the hands of insane people, that it's going to be, Armageddon, right? Absolutely fucking ridiculous. Other countries don't have this problem, right? New Zealand has a mass shooting, the Christchurch shooting, and then, within a month, bam, fucking firearms ban, right? They got rid of all their assault type weapons, right? They started buyback programs, stuff like that, and now, know what? There's not going to be another problem there, okay? Same thing happens in Australia. In the 80s, they had they had a mass shooting in the 80s. They actually took some, like, logical, steps to reduce the number of guns, and now they haven't had a mass shooting in Australia in, like, fucking 40 years. Okay? And the thing is, guns are legal in Australia. You can own a gun there, right? The same thing in Canada. You can own a gun in Canada. They don't have this fucking problem either, Why do we have it here? We have it here because half of our fucking population is just brainwashed into thinking the only freedom worth having is the one to own a fucking gun. It's like, well, what about all the other fucking amendments besides the Second Amendment? What about your freedom to go to the goddamn grocery store and not get blown away? What about that? What about the freedom to go to a nightclub, like it was in Ohio, and not get fucking murdered? To go to the Gilroy shooting that was last week, it was at a garlic festival. All right, a festival, an outdoor festival where people go to, like, have fun and eat garlic ice cream, which, if you've never had it, is actually fucking awesome. Gilroy is really cool, by the way. You could drive through it on the way to San Francisco and you could smell garlic. It rules. They have garlic ice cream. But, what about your right to go to just live and not be in fear, right, that some random fucking psychopath is gonna fucking kill you? Right now, there are two bipartisan bills that passed the House for background checks, right? This is something that 90% of the people, 97%, I think what it is, of the people in the country actually want. Criminal background checks to keep people from buying guns. They won't go to a vote in the Senate because of Mitch McConnell, right? In no small part from, pressure from the NRA. That's what's wrong with this country, okay? It's because we have a system that's basically taken over by the gun lobby and a citizenry where half the fucking citizens are in denial that we even have a problem. And it's just never gonna, it's never gonna solve. I mean, I don't understand it. I don't see how anybody at this point, when we have children blowing each other away in schools, why we can't get anything done about this, right? So that's what it is. That's the sickness that we have in America right here. This is the symptom of a disease, all right? It's nobody's, it's not the right wing's fault, although they're not fucking helping and they're contributing a lot to it. It's not the left wing's fault. They're not doing enough to stop it, right? It's all of our fucking fault because our country is diseased. And that's all I got, folks. Adios.